What if I told you that Germany is about to take on $500 billion in new debt? Not for war, not for crisis, but in the name of fairness, Gleichheit, and Umverteilung. Some say it's necessary, others say it's the financial step towards financial suicide. And it gets even crazier. Gold is being called a Nazi metal, cash withdrawals are criminalized. Your money, it's not really yours anymore. And now they want to get their hands on your savings, on your bitcoins, on your portfolio. So let's break it down. What is really going on in Germany right now, and what does it mean for your freedom, your finance, and the future of Europe? Now, how real is the threat of wealth taxation, asset seizure, or even modern day Lastenausgleich, which basically means that all of the debt that was taken by the German government over the last years or decades, especially when it comes to COVID, and all of the new money printed and all the debt that they took to stabilize the economy over especially this big, let's say, event C19, so-called Lastenausgleich, which basically in English means that they are dividing all of the debt onto the people of Germany. Basically, everyone has to take a part in the current debt, and everyone has to give money to, at the end of the day, make it break even again. So I truly believe that there's always a very high chance in a so-called socialistic country like Germany, or more so new communistic country, where we're basically going to, if you consider that we are opening the borders for everyone, that everyone should be equal, that capitalism is very much hated on and liberalism is insanely pushed all over Germany, especially in kindergartens, in TV, in series, in movies, and basically everywhere, right? You kind of feel like if I come from a more capitalistic country like Dubai, for example, or the UAE, Dubai is not a country obviously, but city where I live, and I come back to Germany, I truly believe like it's kind of like new age communism, right? And I don't mean that in a bad way, but if you look on how everything is going, it's crazy, like how the people's mind changed over the last decades from being a strong, unified Germany where everyone has access and everyone is in the middle class. Not too much of a capitalism, but also not too little of a capitalistic mindset, basically, right? To kind of put it there. It's a little bit difficult to put that in words. It's a little bit of a feeling which comes from me growing up in Germany, leaving Germany 4 years ago, many times traveling back to Germany, right? And you might also feel that the overall feeling, if you are in Germany, and the overall conclusion of being in Germany is that everything has to be fair and equal, and you cannot have too much, and it's better to have too little, because if you have too much, then they will take it from you. And that's actually what is happening and we are talking about. So I truly believe there's a big chance that Germany will go even more socialistic towards communistic mindset in the future. Means that if you have accumulated wealth, right, they will tax it higher. They will come up with a so-called Vermögensteuer, which basically means they are taxing your savings, they're taxing the money that you have put aside, especially if it's high value assets in the sense of stocks, if it's in the sense of, let's say, bigger investments into real estate or into companies or even into crypto, right? If you have, let's say, more than 100,000, more than 1 million, there's no bar set yet. They spoke about it in the past that they will tax every millionaire that has 1 million euro and more in money sitting somewhere. They will tax that with 10%, 20%, 30%, right? So I truly believe that there's a big possibility of this happening, because all the flags that we just talked about, the common sense of the people, the wiping out of the so-called middle shift, the normal people that have normal money, right? Them being open for basically every border. Everyone that comes into Germany gets a so-called Bürgergeld, which basically means they're getting money for doing nothing, just to be there, right? All of this kind of sounds very, again, communistic, and therefore communism speaks against capitalism. Therefore, people shall not have a lot of wealth, right? Capitalism means taking from the rich and then pouring it into everyone, so everyone has equal, but that equal averages below the so-called middle class, averages below a normal standard of life if everyone would work in a free, more capitalistic economy. So yes, I truly believe the so-called Lastenausgleich is about to happen in Germany, and you need to be very careful if you especially apply, or you will be taxed under these rules if you have a lot of assets in crypto, in stocks, in anything else. You need to act right now. So that brings us to the question if it's right now kind of like criminal to hold cash and gold. And it's kind of yes, because you kind of see that the media especially is kind of prompting everyone to believe that if they have a lot of money, if they have cash, or they withdraw cash, or they're making payments, daily payments in cash, or even, God forbid, invest money into gold, right, which is a safe haven once there is no belief in the economy anymore in the country. Then most of the people start, if they have wealth, to transfer the money into gold. And we have seen a big gold rally over the last 4 years since the Ukrainian-Russian war started. We had a 60% increase in gold, right? So yes, wars is one thing that triggers people to invest into gold, but also the disbelief and losing trust in their government, in their current currency, right? That's also, for example, why in Turkey crypto was forbidden for a very long time. It's a very difficult thing. Why? Because the inflation in Turkey is so insanely high. People lose trust in the government, in the currency that they are using, if it's a Turkish lira or therefore the euro if we speak about Germany. So they tend to put their money into gold. So the only thing the government can do is criminalize gold and cash, where they're saying, if we want to control you more, if we want you guys to not participate in any capitalistic, let's say, endeavors, which would be investing into gold, right? Because if you move your money out of the euro into gold, it's because you're not having any faith in your currency, in your country, in your economy anymore, and you want to make gains. And that's exactly what they don't want you to do. So the overall consciousness is, I think, is the perfect example here, is what they want to manipulate and change. They want to change your consciousness, your perception towards money and capitalism and investing and thinking of success monetarily, that this is not allowed, this is criminal, you should not do that. It kind of feels, to put it into a feeling, in Germany, it feels criminal to have money, to invest money, to receive a lot of money. And that's exactly what they want. They want to change your perception, your feeling towards money. Therefore, it's easier for you to adapt to their agenda, which is, again, a very socialistic, very equal, right, and very communistic ideal, where, again, in my very opinion, it's way below the old system. It's way below if we would have the Mittelstand and the average, right, of having a good life, a normal life, one man working, taking care of its family, being able to hold the mortgage, buy a house, invest into a house, pay it off at the bank with good interest rates, with good inflation or with low inflation, basically, right? Having their own car. All of these things are not possible anymore, right? Therefore, they want to criminalize and they want to make you feel like you're a criminal if you deal with any capitalistic or in any capitalistic endeavors, which would be holding cash, which would be investing, and especially buying gold. Now, to make one prediction here, which I'm very sure about, is that in the future we will see the European Union, or especially Germany leading it, introducing the digital euro, which is basically a programmable financial surveillance asset, right? It's like a euro, but since they want to go away, especially from the cash, right? Because cash is what they cannot track. You need to understand cash is the direct opposite of what the government wants. A government wants to track you. They want to control your spending. They want to increase, decrease your spending. They want to direct your spending. Where do you spend your money into? And all of this is obviously possible if they have a digital currency that they send to you to a digital account where they can digitally track it and see where you spend your money. And they can incentivize you for spending money in certain ways. And they can de-incentivize you on the other side on spending your money in investing. Like, let's say, for example, just to make a stupid example here, and we will laugh about that in the next decades, but let's say, for example, they send you your 2,000 euros, which you make from working in a factory, right? So these are your 2,000 digital euros. And now there is a certain agenda right now, and they want you to invest the money, right? They want you to invest the money back into the economy, means they want you to spend it. So let's say they give you 2,000. They say if you spend all of your money this month, next month you will again get 2,000. But if you should take 200 euros out of the 2,000 digital euros we have sent you and you should invest them, God forbid you put them in gold or somewhere else, we will deduct it from you. Next time you will not get 2,000 digital euros, you will only get 1,800 digital euros. I mean, just by sitting here and pretending I am a country and I want to control the spending of my people, that's exactly how I would do it. I would incentivize or de-incentivize by giving them more or less money if they follow what I tell them to do. And on top of that, now this is completely controlled. They can monitor the whole, let's say, money spending system in that sense, where people spend their money, what they do. But at the same time, it also does not allow for free commerce anymore. It does not allow us to hold control on who we give money to and not. And obviously, yes, Many people would say, yeah, but only criminals deal with cash and pay cash. Yes, on one side that is true, right? On one side it's true that cash is used for criminal activities, but don't blame it on the cash, blame it on the currency itself, right? Back in the times, many people said Bitcoin is the currency that's only used for criminals. The US dollar is even so more used for criminal activities, right? So that makes no sense. At the end of the day, it's for digital surveillance, it's to control you, it's to control the spending, it's to control the people. And I truly believe that one of the last freedoms we have is cash, spending money on things that we don't want people to see on a bank account where we're putting this money into. If it's certain investments, if it's freedom, right? And yes, it is used for bad things. Yes, it's used for criminal activities, and yes, it's used for tax evasion. I understand that, and you should obviously not do that. But there's also many other real life examples where cash is a certain freedom for people. If it's to buy things they don't want anyone to see, right? Maybe things that they don't like any other one to see on their bank account, right? If it's certain hobbies or certain activities, and yes, there's idiotic things you can do and think about, but that's not the case. The case is that it's one of the last bastion of freedom is cash, because it's not trackable, and obviously they're criminalizing it. You're not allowed to have more than 10,000 euros. If you are caught with more than 10,000 euros in your pocket, they can take it into custody, and then you need to prove where the money comes from. Every time nowadays you make more than $10,000 on your bank account wired, then they block your account. You need to explain them where it comes from. So very small amounts of money, especially on a private bank account. It's called private, not business. Business bank accounts, I understand if they want to track it, but private is private. No one should look into it. And that's what is happening. And people already lost this connection to what actually a private bank account means. Here, for example, in the UAE, a private bank account is a private bank account. No one should look into it. No one should be allowed to look into it, and no one will touch it as long as you're not under criminal investigation or anything. And that's how it should be. In Germany, that's not the case. There's constant surveillance on your accounts. Even if there's money there, they report it directly, then you need to show them. So it's criminalized, right? They want you to feel like a criminal if you make money, and therefore they want to lower the average. And Umverteilung, they want everyone to be equal, everyone to has less, because if you take capitalism away, then it's easy to control people, to make everyone average, and that's how you already feel anyways in Germany. Now there's one insane example which happened during the C19 times, which is the Canada frozen trucker bank accounts, which basically means there was as I believe, don't count me out on that, but I believe during C19 times there was insane problems for truckers, right? Because of work, and they were not allowed to drive, and obviously everything was going down in terms of economy, so all of these truckers were making no money anymore. So these truck drivers, basically, right, import-export, the ones that drive the big trucks on the autobahn that always suck and you cannot overtake them, right? But the truckers, they went on a dispute against the Canadian government. They went onto the streets, they were fighting for their rights, they were fighting for their pay, they were fighting for help whatsoever, right? And what Canada actually did is they took some of these truckers, right? And to break, let's say, this opposition, to break them basically going against the government at the current situations, or regarding the difficult economic problems that they're facing right now, right? They took their personalities, they put them into prison, and they froze their bank accounts. So basically, once you became in opposition to the government on a very low level, I mean, we are talking about truckers that are fighting for their pay, fighting for survival, they are closing their bank accounts. So they cannot participate in the world anymore, because if you close someone's bank account in a westernized country, in a civilized country, that means you're taking them their freedom. There's freedom of trade, there's freedom of participating in a free economy. But if you close and froze someone's bank account, therefore for them stopping to oppose the government and go onto the streets, right? And maybe even riot, which I don't understand, which for what I understand, there was no riots, right? They were not destroying any public assets. They were not offending anyone, right? They were just in opposition. So it's kind of crazy to see that in a free democracy, right, like Canada, people's bank accounts get frozen. Therefore, they are not able to participate in the democracy anymore, because that's the fundament, a bank account, free trade, right? Buying groceries for your family, that's insane, right? That's insane. And we should be so afraid of that, and we should be so careful, seeing that they already did that, right? And it will come in the future. It's just like they're testing it. There's not enough people understanding it, what is happening, not enough people leaning against it. At the end of the day, it's very difficult anyways to lean onto a country or against something, right? Being a bigger opposition, most of the times it just makes sense to disappear or to be prepared to have multiple bank accounts, right? We talk about that always, why it's so important to have multiple bank accounts and move your money in different locations. But it's kind of crazy because that's the exact example of how probably the future will look like. As soon as you oppose the government, your bank account gets frozen. As soon as you say something against the government, democracy, whatever is happening, whatever these leaders are doing, bank account is frozen, cannot open any bank accounts, therefore cannot live a free life anymore. Therefore, it's like kind of being in prison, right? So you say something, you do something, bank account frozen, that's it. Now, most people don't understand that this will affect basically everyone, and it will cause that everyone will have a less qualitative life and lifestyle and experience of life as they have right now. I don't believe that any of these measures are going to increase quality of life, because if you look back to 10 years ago, 20, 30, 50, 100 years ago, right, there was a certain curve where we as democracies, as westernized leaders, right, we hit our like all-time high. That was when we had the most freedom, we had the most income, we had the less inflation, we had the no wars basically going on. Everyone was happy, everyone was free, everyone was really biting into the fruit of democracy, right? And I think that time was long time ago. I think since then we have declined, and I think every decade we're declining more into more control, into less freedom, therefore into a worse quality of life. And I truly believe that these things, right, banning people's bank accounts for being or opposing the government, taxing the ultra rich and bringing down the ultra rich, or therefore them leaving Europe or Germany especially, which they are, right? So basically you're just kicking every rich person out and you're leaving the broke people there. It's just going to be very difficult. So I always want to refer to communism with a lot of respect, not saying that this is like communism. I think communism was very, very much worse, but it's kind of like a new age communism. That's how I would like to call it. I mean, I've read a lot about communism. I mean, State and Revolution here from Lenin, who was the first Soviet leader under communism. I have many books over there that I read about communism, and that's something that I don't want to go back to. There is no factual proof that communism is any better than a free market, than a capitalistic market. And we are going away from that, right? So I truly believe it doesn't matter if you're rich or not, it's going to affect you, and it's going to bring down the average life quality of everyone that is participating or affected by that. So the only thing you can do at the end of the day is escape, set up, and prepare. Can Bitcoin still be a solution, or are governments already figuring out on how to shut that escape route down? And I truly believe yes. I mean, it's still possible to, if you want to buy crypto and put it on a cold wallet and save it somewhere, or have it somewhere where people cannot access it, obviously by you just knowing the code. These are always opportunities basically, yeah, and that's why we are so lucky, because Bitcoin is really like the last way out of this, or crypto especially, to hold your assets. So I truly believe that if you want to set yourself up for more success and more freedom in the future, especially if you tend to stay in these governments, basically living and continuously living under these governments, you're not planning to escape Europe, or you're not able to, then yes, it definitely makes sense to, let's say, silently own some cryptos, just so you are prepared, because it doesn't look so good, guys. It doesn't really look good, especially on factually, on the inflation, on immigration. The government itself doesn't really look good, guys. So yeah, I would definitely set up different funds in crypto, hold them somewhere else, have second setups, means maybe a different license, a different company somewhere, something like UAE or maybe Panama, or there's like many different, let's say, international places that you can target, where you can open a second bank account, you can open a residence, or you can have a residence, you can even apply for a passport. If that's something you are able to, then I would do it. Now, the only problem is for the people that don't have the financial means to do that, and they are stuck with number one rule always, which is money first. You need to build yourself, you need to do something now, especially online, to build yourself up, to make a lot of money, and then be able to invest into cryptos, hold secondary funds, and prepare yourself for all of this. Because yeah, they will attack Bitcoin. They are already. They will tax it higher. They will take your Bitcoins from you in the future. I'm pretty sure about that, because it opposes exactly what they want to. They want control, and they want that everyone is similar and equal, right? One of the main values of communism. They want everyone to be equal, but therefore they need to take from everybody and then distribute to everybody, which is the distribution part is the one that mostly misses. That's not going to happen, right? There's a couple of people that are going to enrich themselves a lot So it's more like a very bad dictatorship under the cover of saying everyone is going to be equal, while the whole average is going to be taken down and going to have a worse experience of life than before. So now let's talk about the Sondervermögen, which basically means that they are coming up with 500 billion US dollars or euros basically to invest into the infrastructure of Germany, while they're basically bypassing fiscal responsibilities by basically relabeling taking on more debt. So that's basically what they're doing. They're taking on more debt to then put it into their own country finally, which I truly believe it's finally time to do that. Now the only question is where this money is going to go, and if you look into it, they already dedicated 100, so 1/5 of that, right? They already dedicated to climate neutral, klimaneutral infrastructure, which is climate neutral infrastructure for Germany, which I believe, okay, do your climate thing, but there's many other big problems that we have right now in Germany. But at least they're taking money to invest it into the country if they do so. Now, I truly believe at the end of the day, who's going to make the most money and where the most money is going to go is going into bureaucracy and a lot of waste for a lot of BS. I truly believe that this money, which is a lot of money, you can really remake your whole country and make it shine perfectly again, right? Especially investing into the infrastructure, helping, let's say, modernize the country, right? There's many things such as the internet that in Germany are, I would not even say third world country, it's fourth world country, even though that doesn't exist, I think. But that's how it feels there. I think it's good that they're doing it, but I truly believe that too much money anyways is going to be missing into the bureaucracy, right? It's going to be fed into the bureaucracy machine and it's going to be wasted there. It's going to be wasted on climate stuff, right? No one gives a shit about climate but Germany, and they're the ones that put the most money into it, and it doesn't really help anyone anyways. Every other country looks out for themselves and they don't care about really like climate stuff. So yeah, at the end of the day, again, Sondervermögen, I think it's something good, but obviously need to put as a side note, obviously, that a lot of money is going to be spent on a lot of bullshit. And yes, it's basically changing the constitution in Germany for taking more debt, which is always very dangerous to change the constitution to do things. But at least they did not say we're going to invest it into any other country out there, right? At least they're finally investing into their own country, hopefully. So even though it's negative, it's positive, okay? So very good when it comes to that. But I think more of the money, as we already spoke about, they're gonna take from you. So you need to be very careful about that, because they are understanding they have a big deficit and they need to fill it. So they're gonna print their own money, they're gonna take on debts, sell bonds, right? Take on debts in the World Bank. Some certain people control Germany even more, as they already do. And at the same time, they're gonna take from you to make Germany this big apparatus of socialism, of new age communism, where everyone is equal, but everyone has a worse life than they had before. And they want to try to sell you that by criminalizing you if you believe in capitalism. I think we are not very far from seeing a big change in perception and how things are taught in school, more towards a communistic vibe than a capitalistic vibe, because that's what they want. And that's what the whole World Economic Forum agenda, the whole globalism movement wants, is like globalize the world, make everyone equal, take away the capitalism, let them not have power, because money is power when money is everything, right? So take the money away from them so they're all equal, control them with central bank currencies. But at least there are a couple of people that are completely against it, and that is good. But Germany has no opposition, and if they have an opposition, they are getting banned, like for example the AfD, right? So it's insanely crazy where we actually are if you put all of this into words. So a very dangerous, very chaotic and very bad looking future for this very country. So as a conclusion, I would definitely prepare myself, if you should have not already earlier, but if that's where you understand it now by seeing all of these red flags that have been popping up over the last couple of months, especially in Germany, which we are focusing on here, but it's all over Europe in general, then you should have already been preparing and out and setting up different company structures. But preparing to leave European Union and choosing a country where you can live still in freedom, that oppose the liberal mindset and stand for freedom and free market and capitalism, are definitely good solutions. There's many countries that maybe if you go into Latin America, Argentina for example, they already went through a more communistic, liberal phase back in the times, and they don't want to go back there. They already overcame this big problem, as Milei, for example, spoke, the ex-Argentinian president, at the World Economic Forum and warned everyone that what they're doing with their globalistic and liberalistic mindset is going to destroy everything, and that's what's happened to Argentina back in the time. So they are a little bit further ahead when it comes to that. And then there's different other countries. My favorite, obviously, UAE, that's why I'm here. But people are leaving Europe. There's a reason to leave Europe if you financially can. So it makes sense to prepare yourself. It makes sense to take your assets out, because if not, they're going to increase the taxation for you to leave the country in the future. They're going to tax your wealth, and most likely, maybe over exaggerating right now, but they want to take your assets and they want to make everyone equal. So be prepared. Here's the bottom line. You can complain, you can cope, or you can prepare. We are entering an era where owning assets inside the system might become the biggest liability. The winners of this next decade won't be the loudest, they'll be the most prepared. So if you want to be one of them, make sure you're subscribed and drop your thoughts into the comments. Maybe you have other ideas how you can prepare. Is this smart policy or full-on socialism in disguise? Stay sharp, stay mobile, and remember, freedom has a price. Sometimes it's as simple as moving your money before they move on you.